Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tom, and I'd like to tell you about some work I've done to analyze website access logs at scale. Traffic logs can provide website owners with important business insights. Current methods to analyze logs include front-end systems like Google Analytics place JavaScript on pages to send information about visitors to a third-party system. But such systems don't track bots, errors, or non-page requests like requests for an API or a search endpoint. Backend systems like AWStats or Webalizer process raw server logs to produce access reports. But these systems are not very customizable and they have scaling limitations. Finally, the largest websites like Facebook and YouTube use distributed systems like Spark and Hadoop to process logs. But this requires extensive technical knowledge to set up and can be expensive to run. So the question is, how can mid-sized websites effectively analyze their traffic logs? I've implemented a pipeline to tackle this problem as an open source project I'm calling Logservatory. It's like an observatory for the universe of log data. Logservatory first builds an index over the log files to be analyzed. Then it repeatedly ingests as many logs as fit in memory into an efficient in-memory SQLite database. Arbitrary SQL queries can be run over this log data, and partial results from each batch are appended to output CSV files. We do have to be a little bit careful with the queries we run. I'll talk more about this in a bit. Finally, we can post-process and visualize the results. Now I'd like to show off Logservatory in action. I work for a nonprofit called Ballotpedia, which publishes a large website with nonpartisan information about US politics. Each year, the site gets 100 million page views or more to over 300,000 different pages, and we're regularly in the top 1,000 most trafficked websites in the US, during elections often in the top 100. In the year 2020, Ballotpedia.org generated 1.4 terabytes of log data in over 500,000 log files, corresponding to over 3 billion requests served by the site. I ran 20 different queries over these logs using Logservatory on a single machine in just over 2 days. In the rest of this presentation, I'll share a few highlights from my analysis. One major type of query that we can run using Logservatory is to produce time series data, where we generate values for some time period that fits in memory, like say an hour's worth of logs. We can combine hours that are split across batches in a post-processing step. But note that some quantities, like count distinct, cannot be combined meaningfully. In this example, we see non-bot traffic to Ballotpedia throughout 2020. You can see spikes on Super Tuesday and several other dates when various states held primary elections, as well as elevated traffic in October, leading up to the general election on November 3rd. Using window functions, we can do more complex analysis. Here, we query for the top 50 most popular pages for every hour in 2020. Pruning these down for pages that have brief spikes of popularity, rather than being popular all year, we can see results like interest in the deadline to run for president when Kanye West announced his candidacy in July, interest in travel restrictions due to COVID in the summer, interest in Kamala Harris when Joe Biden announced her as his running mate in August, and again in October around the vice presidential debate. Interest in early processing of mail-in ballots at the end of September, as mail-in voting picked up and people were eager to learn early results. The rather disheartening spike in people asking, do you have to vote for everything on your ballot on Election Day? And many questions about the Electoral College, recount laws, and presidential results in Pennsylvania and Georgia in the aftermath of Election Day. As I mentioned, I ran 20 different queries over Ballotpedia's log data, and unfortunately I don't have time to present all of the results today. But I'll wrap up by discussing one issue that's very important for website owners: security. Security is a great reason to analyze web server logs, and one where front-end systems like Google Analytics provide little information. At Ballotpedia in 2020, we saw several possible credential stuffing attacks, spikes in post requests to our login page, which were curtailed by a login rate limiting system we have in place. We also routinely see scanning behavior with requests for known vulnerable scripts, attempts at code injection, and requests for sensitive files. And we also see many attempts at SQL injection. 2020 was an interesting and challenging year. Major themes and events included COVID, which put the country on lockdown starting in March and which impacted elections significantly. The contentious presidential election with its associated debates and debacles. For the first time ever, mail-in or absentee voting was widespread due to the pandemic, and there was turnover at the Supreme Court with the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg and the quick nomination and confirmation of Amy Coney Barrett before the general election. What a wild ride. In conclusion, Logservatory is a versatile tool which provides insight into terabyte-scale website logs. Only SQL knowledge is needed. You can download and try it out at the GitHub link shown here. Thanks for your attention. I welcome your questions.